When you're writing a webcomic, creating pages that beg to be turned is essential. You want to be able to drive that forward momentum that brings readers back each update. But at the same time, I recently told you to avoid cliffhangers. So what's a webcomic writer to do? First and foremost, I don't exactly hate a good cliffhanger. Avoiding cliffhangers is kind of like the advice show don't tell. Cliffhangers are simple ways to create interest and tension, but they're easy to overdo and can become exceedingly frustrating to readers when you overuse them. So instead of fixating on cliffhangers, let's talk about other aspects of engaging readers, then discuss ways to make kind of kick butt cliffhanger ending type things. So by far the most important way to keep your readers engaged is to have interesting things happening. This can be characters that are fun to read about, plots with exciting conflicts, a fascinating world to explore, and one of the simplest ways to keep interest is through the use of conflict. Having problems that need solutions and motivations for characters creates a reason to keep coming back for more. Always consider why your reader would want to return to a story. While not all of your pages will be mind-blowing and plot-shattering, they should at least have some degree of interest. Whether it's an interesting topic, page layout, fun setting, exciting battle, like interest is key. Now, with that understood, let's talk about the most important aspect of creating a page turn, the ending. Whether it's the end of your page or scene or volume, endings are important. The end of a page is where your reader is most likely going to decide whether or not they continue on. This is where the urge to create cliffhangers kind of begins. Who's knocking at that door? Well, you better turn the page to find out. So why don't I like this? It seems like a perfectly reasonable point of intrigue. Mystery is interesting, right? Well, sometimes, sure. But mystery without suspense is something I would use sparingly. Let's talk about the knock at the door scenario as our example. There are 4 possible setups for a knock at the door. So 1, there's a setup where the reader and character have no context to this knock. It happens randomly. 2, the character knows what's going on, but the reader doesn't. There's the 3rd setup, which is the reader knows, but the character doesn't. And there's the 4th setup where they both know who is going to be at that door. Now, all 4 occurrences can be engaging or superfluous. Though some definitely lean more in one direction than the other. So let's break this down. So neither the reader nor the character have any context for the knock. This is by far the most likely to come off as annoying and kind of pointless as a cliffhanger. A complete random occurrence like this is most likely to work at the very beginning of a story. Whatever is knocking at that door better deserve the hype that you're giving it. But even then, I'd always question ending a scene on a cliffhanger that doesn't have context. Because in the end, if what's on the other side of the door is super exciting, why not end the page with the entrance? It'll remain exciting while also giving your reader a better sense of what to expect, instead of pondering what could possibly be on the other side of the door, having like infinite ideas to go through their head. They're kind of thinking more directly if you show them, and they start pondering your story specifically and what kind of adventure is going to be like entailed in it. In the second scenario, a character knows what's on the other side of the door, but the reader doesn't. It's very much the same as our previous example where neither know. In the case of suspense and build, it's a lot more about what the reader knows rather than the character. So if you're introducing something that the character knows, a little lead-in is most likely going to be better than no lead-in at all. But early on, it can be done, like I said in the previous example. And again, like I said in the previous example, it's in a case like this, whatever is on the other side of the door, it better be worth it. And even then, like, consider why you're doing it. Number 3, the third scenario is where we kind of get into the good stuff, the bread and butter of page turns. When the reader knows what's on the other side of the door and the character doesn't. This is classic dramatic irony. like before, what's on the other side of the door should be intriguing, but you don't have to push it as hard since you won't be battling against the reader's imagination. The real trick to having this thing work wonders is to get your audience to kind of realize what's about to happen right as the knock happens. You leave kind of like a bread trail of context clues, and then like wham, this is really hard to do, and it's usually like mastered through having like test readers. Like you either add or subtract clues depending on if the reader is like realizing things too fast. They may comment on the ending being boring if that's the case, or if it's happening too slow, their realization is happening too slow, in which case they'd probably be like, I'm kind of confused about what the ending even means. In that case, you need more breadcrumbs. And that creates a much more kind of punchy ending because you're engaging the reader more. Engaging is kind of meeting the reader halfway, letting them come up with their own ideas, but also holding their hand and kind of like guiding them in the directions you want to. And that's why that tends to be a really engaging form of storytelling. And moving on to our fourth scenario, like while the previous is the punchiest, the fourth scenario is a lot more frequent. I think I said before the previous one was bread and butter. That was more butter. This is bread. You need this. So the fourth ending is where both the character and reader know what's gonna kind of happen once you flip the page and see who's on the other side of the door. You know, because if you're always ending pages and scenes the third way, things can kind of get tiring really fast. It's like dramatic reveal, where you want to give your reader some time to calm down and expect things and kind of get what they expect out of situations. So if a character and reader both are expecting a knock and know what will be on the other side, that's perfectly fine, as long as it's in the direction of progress and it's in the direction of conflict. It's an acceptable way to continue a scene, end a page, etc. What really matters is that at the end of any page or scene, the reader should have a general sense of where things are headed. It's your job to know where they think they are headed, and either you're going to end up taking them there, or you're going to surprise them with something they didn't quite see coming. That's a whole other topic for a whole other day. But you should know what the reader is expecting. That's your job. At the end of your scene, I've told you to have either a yes or a no to the conflict. And with that answer, you will always get a new conflict. Revealing this to your reader is key to continued engagement. It is your promise that next time we join this plot, we're going to be continuing on with this exciting thing that you were excited about, so get hype. And since you've kind of picked a cool new problem, your reader will be inherently excited about it. So in the end, I don't hate cliffhangers. I don't want you to get that impression. I want you to be aware that you want them to live up to their hype, and they aren't the only key you have to suspense. Use them sparingly. And just focus on engagement. It's okay to just show the thing, because if the thing that you want to show your reader at the end of the day, like whatever is behind that door, if it's exciting and will keep them engaged, there's no reason to hide that. I find suspense is usually way more engaging than mystery, because even when you're going with pure mystery, there's some suspense usually tied to solving the mystery. There's some sort of pressure that is pushing you towards solving the mystery. Mystery is kind of like hard. Focus on suspense and then kind of master mystery, because suspense will get you much farther, much quicker. It tends on the more engaging, more conflicty, more plotty side that some people have a difficulty like starting with when they first start out writing. So worry about that more than the mystery of things, because you don't have to hold all your cards to your chest in order to create something interesting. That's all I have for today. I hope that helped you out. If you have more questions on it, I am always free to answer them. I do go back and answer your questions. It just takes me a little bit sometimes. I'm really hyped because we have Fan Expo coming up, so I'm a little busy. Got a lot of buttons to press. Got some books to send out. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, and give me a high five. Then you can subscribe. High fives first, guys. Yeah. Okay, see ya.